Happy International Women's Month! And thank you so much for joining me here to have another heart-to-heart conversation. And I'm Francis Kong at Your SerBiz. Welcome, our studio audience. Thank you for taking the time to be with us today. Thank you. Now, you know, for the past 7 months, we've heard a lot of inspirational stories and negosyo tips from celebrity business owner, Pinay CEOs, content creators, startup founders, business development managers, and Chinoypreneurs. At ngayon, sa pagtatapos ng first season ng At Your SerBiz, not just one, not two, not three, but 4 game changers from various industries ang maghahatid sa atin ng kanilang expertise and experience. These are the women who lead, women who serve, and women who empower women para sa tuloy-tuloy na success. They have been breaking barriers across the globe and making their own history. Kaya naman, now's the perfect time to hear their stories. The founder of the Philippines' leading parenting-focused e-commerce platform, Edamama, Bela Gupta de Souza. The entrepreneur in residence of Capitan.ph and the largest corporate venture builder in the Philippines, 917 Ventures, Carla Yap Sy-Su. The viral content creator behind Mighty Magulang and the longest-serving national president of Autism Society Philippines, Magno-Veluz. And the co-founder and president of one of the most active venture capital firms in the Philippines, Kickstart Ventures, Minette Navarette. With Globe Business, they are now ready to help, ready to inspire, and ready to be at your SerBiz. Welcome to the show and happy International Women's Month. So why am I feeling a little bit overwhelmed?
I know, right? Lucky you.
And before anything else, let's all congratulate Minette. Because for her well-deserved recognition in the Forbes 50 over 50 Asia Pacific list.
Thank you very much.
This 2023.
Waving
What a great
the Philippines
accomplishment.
flag. That's
There
what
you
we're
go.
doing.
There you go. But of course, you know, you've all had interesting careers, and briefly, you can take us through your career from when you started out to today. Why don't we start with Carla?
Thanks, Francis. For me, it's been an amazing journey of discovering how innovation and technology can be applied in so many industries. I've started in telecom, then expanded quickly into media, went into data, and then now I'm with 917 Ventures, where our goal is to build out new businesses that allow us to solve problems through technology.
Okay, good. And Mona.
So I am Mona Magno-Veluz. I started out also in technology. That started my 30-year career in corporate. And a few years ago, well, not a few years ago, some years ago, I decided that I wanted to go into the NGO track. And I took whatever I learned from that NGO track from the corporate track into an NGO. And that wasn't the end of it, strangely enough. I also discovered TikTok, and I am now a content creator doing history and genealogy.
I have to apologize to Mona because I confessed that I flunked my history subject when I was in
You
high
are not
school.
alone.
There you go. And Bella, what about you?
Thank you for having me today, and nice to meet you. I'm Bela. I'm the founder of Edamama. I started Edamama about 3 years ago, and our mission is to help parents simplify decision-making and find everyday joy in parenting. I'd like to think that my journey into building Edamama came from my passion for entrepreneurship and the impact that I think one can have in starting a business. And I hope that other women out there will also be able to take something out of today's session and be inspired to start their own ventures one day.
That's great. And Minette?
Thanks for having us. It was interesting to listen to Carla and Mona talk about just starting out with a passion for innovation. I think for myself, I went the other way around. So when I got out of college, I didn't know what I was going to do. some people optimize a career along maybe compensation, maybe recognition. I was optimizing along where could I learn something. So I have a weird career that moves from FMCG. And then I thought, okay, where can I learn something very different? And so I went into property. I ran Shangri-La. And then I went into Levi Strauss. And I ran the Philippines and Guam business. And I think that decade, that second decade of my career, was about learning to fix things, to make things move from being unprofitable to being profitable. And then I had a sort of midlife crisis and thought, I had never done tech. And so I joined a startup, Level Up. We published Ragnarok, for those of you who are old enough to remember this. We published online games. And then when that was acquired by a larger company, I got hired by Globe. And in Globe, I learned to do much more around tech, around content, until I found my way to proposing that we do venture capital. And that's how we set up Kickstart Ventures 11 years ago.
Well, it's very interesting that I think you personify what everybody else in the group would be: continuously learning, finding out for opportunities, and challenging ourselves, right? And with all the very incredible achievements and credentials, I wonder, have you always been very, watch these words, opinionated and empowered? And let's start with Minette.
We found this out while we were waiting to get on stage. We are all middle children,
Oh, is
And-
that so? All of you?
the four of us.
So you got to be a middle child in order to achieve. I don't think that's the case, right?
Just for myself as a middle child, I was born into a world where there was someone already. And so it was a moment to learn to hold my own opinion, to have my own position, and to express it. Because otherwise, I was dead.
Most of you came from a male-dominated field, boys' club, diba? And what are the challenges that you've encountered as a woman, and upon climbing or rising through the ranks, and how did you deal with that?
I think the stats speak for themselves. If we look at it at a global level, the number of women who hold board seats in an organization, the number of women in management, the number of women like Minette who are in investing roles, right? It's still a very male-dominated environment from that perspective. But I have to say, my journey, at least in the Philippines, I've been here now for 11 plus years. I am an adopted citizen of the Philippines. I have truly felt that Philippines is a very egalitarian society. I think the challenges are more systemic. And when I say systemic challenges, what my observations have been is particularly around maternity leave, to support flexible work arrangements, to be able to stay in the workforce and really utilize their talents and capabilities to stay there and climb the ranks.
Isn't that wonderful, coming from her, seeing the way that we have better opportunities and conditions for the women players. Now, although there have been notable women entrepreneurs, and I know so many of them, based on your observation, what do you think holds back women back from starting business?
I think it would be doubt. A lot of it could be self-doubt. And that's also coming from maybe better access to education, better access to connections, and then really knowing what's your first step.
Yeah, I think just adding to what Carla said, I think self-doubt, courage to start is definitely one aspect of it. And I think we need more people like Minette in the ecosystem that we can look to and say, I have someone I can relate to. But I also think that society, and this is true of almost any culture around the world, wants women to optimize for stability. And so this optimization for stability, I think oftentimes means that you have to put others first before yourself. So especially when you have children, right? The expectation is you're first a mom before you're anything else. And so I think that also is a very deeply ingrained concept that needs to be shattered, right?
There you go. Being a genealogist this time, Mona, I've got to ask you this question. How has the role of women changed over time from the perspective of someone who understands the movement?
My personal opinion is that women have always had, the intelligence, the drive, the initiative, the talent. We have always been like this. However, culturally, there has been a stifling of that image because, for one thing, we lose our names. Whenever we get married, that is buried. Historically, women have been measured by the accomplishments of their husbands and the accomplishments of their children. And they are remembered sometimes for hosting great parties, being beautiful, and all of that. So I think there has always been that cultural decision to look at that side of women, but we have always had the qualities to run businesses, to be advocates for different causes, to run governments. But it is only now, I think that has come to the fore.
And now being leaders and mentors yourselves, how do you empower the women in your team and develop the next generation leaders? Because in leadership, we have a principle. Success is not success when there's no succession. So how are you going to be doing that? And let's start with you, Bella.
For me, Edamama was about serving moms as customers, but it was as much about reimagining the workplace from the perspective of working mothers, right? And I'd like to believe that somewhere along the way in our journey, we have made it possible for a lot of women who work at Edamama today to not have to experience mom guilt, to not have to sort of make those tough choices between home life and work life, because we trust our women leaders to be able to be output driven and not to measure them by the amount of time they're spending in the office. So for me, what really our mission as a business is to really empower that next generation and to set the right example that you can really have a successful career while raising your family, and that you don't have to make the choice between the two.
If you are a young woman today, it is really important to have like the fundamentals, right? So whatever field you want to go to, you have to have what we call ambag in Tagalog. You have to put something into the pot beyond your gender, beyond your your background. You have to have the right contribution to the conversation. And to build more women in this space, it is important for us to train each other, to mentor each other. And in a lot of situations, like for example, in the nonprofit that I work with, like I said, there are a lot of hesitant leaders because they are the primary caregivers to their children with disabilities. They say, no, I can't do this. I have so much work. Marami pa akong labada. That's what they say. And the reality is, yes, we have a lot of roles in our lives, but we can also share those responsibilities with others. So why don't we get daddy? Why don't we get your older siblings, the older siblings of our children, to help out, so that mommy can take on this new role, this new, this new thing that she wants to have in her life, which is to be a disability advocate.
We'll talk more about that later. And because this episode is very special, hindi lang ako magtatanong sa inyo, our audience has now the opportunity to take part in our meaningful discussion. So, this is it. Let's open the floor for questions and ask her anything.
Hello, I am Riza. I am also an entrepreneur. I actually have two questions. Number one, anyone can answer, by the way. Number one is that as women, people has a lot of expectations from us, and we are also very multifaceted. So as power women, what are the habits that keeps you grounded, and what made you successful to the woman you are today? And my question number two is how are we able to be mentored by you?
Let me take the first question. Personally, I found a lot of peace when I got older because before my head was so busy with things that I need to do, things that I need to plan. It was a lot of clutter there. In my 30 plus years of marriage, I missed my husband's birthday twice because I was thinking of something else. Sorry, dear. But that's the truth. And I found my center when I removed the things that were not important in my life. So now I spend a lot of time thinking. I think the habit of, some call it praying, some call it meditating, some call it like self-reflection. I think it's very good because all of that bring forth self-knowledge. And being self-aware actually helps you do the things that will make your life better. That's for me.
You want to take the second question? So Riza is asking, what does it take or how can she avail of mentoring from power women like you?
Hi, I would say on mentoring, there's no such thing as being self-made, right? We're all the product of people who have helped us along the way in our lives. And so whenever someone reaches out to me, I make it a point to respond and find time to meet up. So would love to connect with you as well. In terms of routines, I think something that I have really learned to practice daily is to let go of this false narrative about perfection as a professional or as a parent or as a wife, right? I think we are all imperfect every day, and we strive to be excellent in what we do, but learning to recognize that you can't do it all and you need help to get you from point A to point B is so important. I have a support system that really helps me. So I think for me, it's always been about asking for help and recognizing I don't need to do everything alone.
There you go. Thank you. Thank you for your question. And of course, to our guests, thank you so much for your very inspiring ideas and sharing. This is precious, you know. Now, let's get back to business and try to solve negosyo problems with your expertise and your experience.